it's another one of those fantasies that students have. It's like, oh, my teacher's so great. He's going to be like, like Don Juan. He's going to slap me in the back of the shoulder, and I'm going to be propelled into this alternate universe, and I'm going to be able to see, and I'm going to be able to interact and travel great distances and do all these things. It's like, literally think about that as if it were real. You have all of this physical understanding since you've been born of what this physical reality is like. And for the most part, everybody's saying, this is all there is. It's like, and, whatever you do in these other things, it really doesn't have that much effect on you because it's all just in your head, whether it's religion or meditation practice, whatever, right? It's all just in your head. It makes you feel good. Great. We see there's some health benefits. Great. We'll give you that, because we tested it. But, to think that it actually has any physical, practical benefit other than those few like cursory things, that's kooky, right? That's nuts. And so imagine having that kind of conviction and then have that completely stripped away from you instantly. We're not talking about a paradigm shift. We're talking about a paradigm earthquake, a cataclysm in your mind that's so powerful that only a few people could survive that for whatever reason, mental resilience, or maybe who knows.
And don't you think that like in traditional, like traditionally speaking, for like traditional shamans, a lot of them, like that's a very common theme in their initiation, whether it was a voluntary initiation or whether it was let's say involuntary, where it was like, oh, well, you got initiated into this because this was just kind of, you tripped into it or whatever, but there's always that possibility of like life or death, or sometimes it's an illness, or sometimes it's like a vision quest where they're fasting for days, and or some, whatever it is, but
Trial
there's,
by fire.
right.
Truly trial by fire,
Do
right?
you do you think do you think that it always has to be like that?
I don't think it always has to be like that. I think, that, some people dive into the pool, you know, just dive right in. Doesn't matter how cold it is, whatever, they do it and they have that experience and they get out. And other people are like, they stick a toe in, they walk down and stand on the first rung of the ladder. Then they walk down after a couple of minutes when they've acclimated to the next rung of the ladder. And, they hop around at waist level for a while until they get used to that. And then they finally ease themselves in. Both ways, you're in the pool. People have different personalities. My thing is, if you develop those foundational practices, that if for some reason somebody dumps you out of the boat, you're going to survive at least long enough for the boat to come back around. If not, there's a good chance your dog paddle is going to end in a very bad way. Right? So I think both methods are, I don't think it's always necessary for that trial by fire, or that, because you really are, it's a very high risk scenario, right? You could really break your mind doing that if it's really like life or death kind of thing.
Right.
You run the risk of like, I mean, I think people have desires that they want so much that they've convinced themselves that if they got that, it would be like initially, right from the beginning, it would be this joyous event. And I think that's another fantasy of the mind. I think if you're up against, something that so profoundly changes the way that you view the whole world, because your mind, talk about circular thinking. Well, if that's not true, then this isn't true. And if that's not true, then this isn't true. Like it'll just take you into like there is nothing that's real. It's like it'll literally, you'll be drooling on yourself in a extra long arm suit somewhere in a white padded room
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
somewhere.
It's so it makes me think of that. There's this great like Norm Macdonald bit on one of his Netflix specials or whatever, where he goes like, "What if you woke up one day and you realized that every single thing that you thought was true was wrong or whatever?"
Right.
And he's like joking about it, and it's kind of funny, and everyone's laughing. But he's like, "That's when you go to the when you go to the rope store or you go to the rickety stool store or like whatever, and it's like it's so morbid and obviously like pretty dark, but it's like it's hilarious because like you would to some degree feel like that. You were like
Well,
every single thing that you thought was true was wrong. Like
yeah, and it's the amount
what
of
would
risk that's put forward, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. Like if somebody tells me that I mean, most of us as kids, whether you're a boy, girl, whatever, it's like, we've all at least at one time tried to hammer a nail into a board to more or less good result. Right? And the more you do it, the better you get. But like, even if you can do it and you're decent, it's like, if a master carpenter comes along and says, hey, you'll do that better if you keep this nail at this slight angle on the first hit, but you really got to smash it when you do it. And believe it or not, because of the angle of the face of the hammer and all these technical things that you haven't, because that's not your profession, there's a part of you that's going like, the wrists are smashed fingers compared to, a much more efficient and better driven nail compared to my, feeble and anemic attempts to drive this nail in straight the way I've always done it until I can just take my hand away and go ahead and whack the hell out of it. It's like, what's the, risk to benefit ratio, right? And so, how much more if somebody said, oh, like, or, if you got into this stuff and if for some reason your thing was like, I don't know, pick something wild, like seeing spirits or something like that, there's been enough TV shows about that shit, that it's like, at least people understand what I'm talking about. And it's like, but if it ever happened to you for real, you'd be shitting yourself. You'd be frightened out of your mind, right? No matter how much, because in your head, what you fantasize about is not going to be nearly as close to what the reality would be. I'm not even saying a negative experience, right? Like just all of a sudden grandma's here, it's like you would be freaking the fuck out. You wouldn't be going like, oh my God, I can see my spiritual grandma. Give me a hug, grandma. How's it going? What's heaven like? It's like, no, you'd be pissing yourself, backing up as far as you can, yelling and screaming, like, who are you? What are you doing? Ah! You're not my grandma. Back. It's like that would be the reality of it, at least initially, right? And that's the thing. So it's like, how much more, to, step into, what would, I don't know, it would be considered an alternate reality or an alternate, dimension is what my teacher would always say, comparatively, more than like an alternate universe or something, but maybe it's the same thing. I have no idea. So, yeah. So I think if people really desire those more dramatic experiences, I don't want to use high or low or whatever. It's like more dramatic experiences, more into the unknown of your daily life experience or even your whole lifetime experience, rather than your physical life. The more of that you want to get in there, the more crucial your foundational practices have to be. The more under your belt you have to be able to do them. The more completely profound experience, relative to those techniques has to be acquired. You need to be able to relax not just your physical body, but your other senses as well. So that you're just basically a container, a physical container that your consciousness is, contained within. So you need to be able to bring that into being to really get the maximum amount of your energy into your consciousness and less of it into your physicality. You know, I don't drive my car to my bedroom. I get out of my car and walk to my bedroom. Right. So it's like, this is what it is. Now, maybe some people don't. Maybe some people take their vehicle with them in there. I don't know. But it's kind of like, it's hard to snuggle in bed when you've got 4,000 pounds of metal around you. It's like that's the same kind of thing to me. It's like you're going to a place of pure consciousness, of pure mind. It's like, why do you need this piece of shit tagging along? It's like it's just a meat suit. It's to help you in this place, but over there it doesn't serve much function other than an anchor to come back to.
Hmm.
So why are you wasting resources on that?
And if it's ultimately relaxed, then whatever you entrain to there, you can actually integrate vibrationally.
You bring back with you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.